Lesson 8.3. Special pairs of angles. Pretty simple. This is actually pretty straightforward. I'm going to explain it to you as simply as I can. There are two very special angles. They are called complementary angles and supplementary angles. You're just going to have to memorize this. Complementary angles and supplementary angles. Whenever I have a 90 degree or a right angle, okay, whenever I have a right angle, do you see that that's a right angle? Can you all tell that that's a right angle? You can tell especially once I go like this, put a box there. Now you know it's a right angle, right? I'm telling you that it's a right angle. If I have two angles that add up to a 90 degree angle, a right angle, you see, like, let's say I call this angle A and this angle B. Do you see where adding A plus B will make a 90 degree angle? Do you see that? Those two angles, A and B, are called complementary. Those are complementary angles. Angles that add up to 90 degrees are called complementary. If I have a straight angle, do you agree that that's a straight angle? Yeah. How many degrees is this straight angle? 180. What if I have that and I go like this? And now I have two angles. What does A and B add up to now? 180 degrees. Those are called supplementary. You're simply going to have to memorize those two words. I cannot do it for you. Complementary angles add up to 90. Supplementary angles add up to 180. Question, Sladen?
But doesn't a straight angle is 180 already?
Right. And that's what I'm saying, that now A plus B here equals 180. Right?
Already 180 without the other one?
Yeah. Listen, look.
Oh, so they make the straight angle.
They make the straight angle. Right? Does that make sense? Right now, this right here is how many degrees? 180. Okay. When or if I ever go, cut it in half or whatever, all of a sudden now, I now don't have one angle, I have two. Right? You connect them. What do these two angles add up to? 180. Those two angles that add up to 180, those are called supplementary angles. Does that make sense? Okay. Here's why you want to know how to do this. Here's why they even talk about this. Let's just say that I have my guy here, and I've told you that it's a right angle. Make sense? You know that. And I go like this. And I tell you that this angle right here is 60 degrees. And I want you to tell me what X is. How can you possibly know what X is, even without having a protractor, even without looking and measuring it with a protractor? How can you do this? How can you do it, Joy? Right. Here's the deal. This is the whole thing. If you know that these two angles, that angle X and 60 degrees, if you know that they are complementary, which means what? That they add up to 90. If you know that those two angles add up to 90, and you already know that this guy here is 60, now you just have to go, oh, okay, well, they add up to 90 minus 60. The other angle, X, has to equal 30 degrees. Does that make sense? Because 30 degrees plus 60 degrees will equal 90 degrees. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. What if I have this? And you know that this angle right here is 40 degrees, and I want you to tell me what Z is. First of all, tell me, what are those two angles? Those two angles are supplementary. That's the word you're looking for. They're supplementary. Since they are supplementary, you know that they add up to 180. You already know this guy is 40, so then you have to figure out, how would you figure out what the other one is? Subtract it from 180. 180 minus the 40 we already know, 140. Can you tell, does that, you guys should know your protractor enough now, is this angle here possibly 140? Does it look like it'd be big? Yeah. It's certainly obtuse, right? It's obtuse. That's what I mean by you should just know acute, obtuse, and just recognize this, and you should know that angles that are tiny are small, that are skinny are going to be smaller than 90. Angles that are bigger than 90 are obtuse, and they're bigger than 90. You should be able to do that just quickly in your head and go, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm going to show you something else now. This is kind of cool. All right, ready for this? Two lines that intersect. Two lines that intersect, okay? They form what is called vertical angles. Whoa. They form what is called vertical angles. Vertical angles are opposite angles. Right here, look here. I want you to see this. This is very important. I want you to see this and understand it. Vertical angles are equal to each other. Here's why. I want you to see the reason why, okay? The opposite angles, when you have two lines that intersect, the opposite angles are equal. They're called vertical angles. Here's why. Let's just do this. Let's call this angle A, angle B, angle C, and angle D. What does angle A and B form? What are they? Angle A and B are? Angle A and B are supplementary, right? Angle A and B are supplementary. They add up to 180, right? Because this line that they're sitting on is a line. And so when you add up A and B, they're going to add up to what? 180. They're supplementary. Okay? Let's just say that A is 60 degrees. We'll just say that A is 60 degrees. Okay? If A is 60, what is B? Then look at it. Then B is 60. Don't just make up stuff, right? Since they add up to 180, it goes 180 minus 60 comes out to 120. That means that this angle is 120. Because 60 plus 120 add up to 180, A and B are supplementary, they add up to 180, right?
Yes.
Since that's true, since B is 120, what does C have to be? Because B and C are also supplementary. Do you see that B and C are also supplementary along this line? Well, then if B is 120, what does C have to be? 60. Does that make sense? And so then if C is 60, C and D are both supplementary, which means they add up to 180, which means that D also has to be. Do you understand now what I'm saying? Two lines that intersect form vertical angles, and vertical angles are what are vertical angles? Name for me the vertical angles here. A and C are vertical angles. Why are A and C vertical angles? Vertical angle. Let's just stop. Stop. What is vertical angles? Look in your book. What are vertical angles? Vertical angles are intersecting lines. That doesn't make any sense. Vertical angles are two intersecting lines? No. What are vertical angles? They form vertical angles. So what are vertical angles? Keep reading. They have equal measures. Vertical angles have equal measures. Would you please tell me, what are the vertical angles here? A and C are vertical. B and D are vertical. Right? Angles A and C are vertical. Why are they vertical? They have the same, they have the same value, the same measure, right? B and D are vertical. Why? Right. When you have two lines that intersect, the opposite angles are vertical, which means that they are congruent. What does the word congruent mean? Equal or same, right? Congruent means same. So, B and D are vertical, A and C are vertical. Do you understand that? Okay. Tell me this. Let's see if you guys can do something here that is pretty neat. Let's see if you can do this. I'm going to give you... One second. I want to see if we can do this. Here we go. I want you to tell me what x is. I want you to tell me how many degrees x is. Think. Don't say it out loud. Figure it out. All right, so here's the deal. Let's see if some of you have this. In order for me to know, first of all, in order for me to know what x is, what else do I need to know? I mean, like, what do I need to find out? I need to know, what do I need to know, Slade? So you look at this guy here. Yeah, no, you're right. Here's the deal. We know if that guy's x, what is this thing? 9 degrees, which means that x and whatever this is, right, whatever that is, are complementary. X and whatever that question mark there is complementary. What does complementary mean again, Ellie? They add up to 90. Two angles that add up to 90. We know they add up to 90 because I told you right here, right? That little guy there tells you that it's 90. So I've got my x and question mark. They're going to add up to 90. But I can't do anything without knowing what the question mark is. Agreed? How can I figure out what the question mark is? How can I figure out what the question mark is? Do you agree? Look here. Do you agree that, I'll use a pinkish, this line here and this line here, do they intersect? Yes. They intersect. Two intersecting lines form, what do they form? They form vertical angles. Two intersecting lines form vertical angles, right? Where when that happens, the opposite angles are equal. They're congruent to each other. So when I cross these two guys here, when I cross these two lines, and I tell you that this side of it is 35, what is this side of it? 35. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Mama, are you following me? You're not even looking up here. How can you be following me if you're not even looking up here? Do I need to say that again so you can see? These two lines, forget this line right now. Ignore this line. Just these two lines alone, those two lines that cross, they form two sets of vertical angles. They form this guy right here, this angle, and they form this angle and this angle. Those two guys are equal. They've crossed. The opposite angles are going to be equal. Ignoring this, right? Ignoring this guy. Just think of these two lines that have crossed. If this is 35, what is this? What is it? How much? No, listen. Okay, got to start over here. Look. If this is 35 degrees, what's that? 35. Opposites are equal to 35. Okay? Look. Ignore. Do not think of him. He's not there. Can you envision him not being there? Okay? So now I have that same exact thing here. You're ignoring this? If this is 35, what is the question mark equal to? They're opposites. 35. Right? Now that I know that the question mark is 35, can you tell me what these two guys add up to? What this big giant thing? Well, they add up to, what do they add up to? 90. They are complementary, right? And so you go 90 minus 35 comes out to 55 degrees, because 35 plus 55 is 90. Do you understand now? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Makes sense? Try this one then. This is worth a candy. If anybody talks during it, you are disqualified. Okay, so here we have that. All of these things are lines. They're not just segments. They're lines. Not that it matters. Okay. Figure it out. All right, so here it is. Listen, this is what I would do. I'm going to redraw this thing down here, just kind of like a smaller version of it. Right? Here's the deal. Technically, we have two lines that do this. Do you agree? There's one extra one that does like this, but we're going to ignore him for right now. How many degrees is this guy that's right here? How many degrees is him? 110. Okay. Which means that how many degrees is this? Oh, this is also 110, right? Right. Do you agree that ignoring that other line, just ignoring that thing, that the two big ones are, right? Then all of a sudden, when I throw in this guy, when I throw him in there, and I tell you that this much is 90, how much, if we already know that this whole thing here is 110, but that this much here is 90, how much does this have to be? 20. Because 20 plus the 90 that's right here make 110. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it, people, the other way to do it that I would have done, I mean, this is another way I would have done it, is this. Look, this is what I would have done. I would have said this, that this guy right here, those two angles, the 110 and we'll call it the question mark, the 110 and the question mark are supplementary. They add up to 180, which means that this guy, the question mark, equals how many degrees? 70. Do you agree with that? 70 plus 110 makes the 180. This angle and this angle are called vertical angles, right? Vertical, which means that this is 70, right? That's 70. And if this guy right here is a 90-degree angle, then this guy here is also a 90-degree angle, which again, if here's 70 of it, this has to be 20. Does that make sense? One last thing before I let you start your homework, before you actually have to go. I'll give you a note. If it says this, number 7 says, we'll do number 9, 68 degrees. They want you to write down the complement to that. What is the complement to 68 degrees? What are they asking? Complement means that they add up to 90, right? So then what's the complement to 68? 22, right? It's 90 minus 6, 22. 68's complement is 22. What's 68's supplement? It's 112. Right, it's 112 because it's whatever it makes it add to 180. Complement means it adds up to 90. Supplement means it adds up to 180. Make sense? The rest of this stuff I know you can do. Here's your homework. Today is Wednesday, yes? Page 376 to 377, 6 to 23 even, and 27 to 31 even. I'll walk with you guys to your class.